Good evening and welcome to Sun Metal Temple. We're so happy you've joined us. My name is Alba and I use she, her pronouns. This is our first March Observance and I'm so happy that you are here. As always, this service is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. Please email me images for our spring equinox holiday video and vote for our movie night currently on the 16th. Currently, the movie Sing is in the lead. Most importantly, please remember that tomorrow is the time change, so depending on where you live, the time of the movie night might change. I'm also going to remind you that I will be gone for most of June and will schedule or pre-post anything that is needed for the month of June. We will open today with our opening words, which will appear on the slide behind you. Please read along at home or listen as I read them aloud. We welcome you into the light of the gods and light this flame in celebration. May its brightness symbolize our connection to the gods and the natural world. May you join us in this community of faith, cherishing love, and with open hearts. So our theme for this month is New Beginnings, and our readings today are Aristophanes' section from Symposium by Plato and the Younger Eddas, translated by I.A. Blackwell. Please keep in mind when we read the first reading of Symposium that the ancient Greeks had a very different concept of sexuality than we do today, often considering women completely filled with lust and unable to control themselves. As for the strange graphic you will see on the next slide, it is something that is just a really helpful visual for what Aristophanes is describing in his texts. The sexes were originally three: men, women, and the union of the two. And they were made round, having 4 hands, 4 feet, 2 faces on a round neck, and the rest to correspond. Terrible was their strength and swiftness, and they were essaying to scale heaven and attack the gods. No doubt reigned in the celestial councils. The gods were divided between the desire of quelling the pride of man and the fear of losing the sacrifices. At last Zeus hit upon an expedient. "Let us cut them in two," he said. "Then they will only have half their strength, and we shall have twice as many sacrifices." He spake, and split them as you might split an egg with a hair. And when this was done, he told Apollo to give their faces a twist and rearrange their persons, taking out the wrinkles and tying the skin in a knot above the navel. The two halves went about looking for one another, and were ready to die of hunger in one another's arms. Then Zeus invented an adjustment of the sexes, which enabled them to marry and to go their way to the business of life. Now the characters of men differ accordingly as they are derived from the original man or the original woman or the original man-woman. Those who come from the man-woman are lascivious and adulterous. Those who come from the woman form female attachments. Those who are a section of the male follow the male and embrace him, and in him all their desires center. The pair are inseparable and live together in pure and manly affection. Yet they cannot tell what they want of one another. But if Hephaestus were to come to them with his instruments and propose that they should be melted into one and remain one here and hereafter, they would acknowledge that this was the very expression of their want. For love is the desire of the whole, and the pursuit of the whole is called love. For there was a time when the two sexes were only one, but now, God having halved them, much as the Spartans have cut up the Arcadians, and if they do not behave themselves, he will divide them again, and they will hop about with half a nose and a face in basso reliefio. Wherefore let us exhort all men to piety, that we may obtain the goods of which love is the author, and be reconciled to God, and find our own true loves, which rarely happens in this world. And now I must beg you not to suppose that I am alluding to Pausanias and Agathon, for my words refer to all mankind everywhere. So then our next reading is the Eddas, and it's the story of the origin of everything. Gangler thus began his discourse. "Who is the first or eldest of the gods?" "In our language," replied Har, "he is called Allfadir, All-Father, or the Father of all. but in old Asgard he has 12 names. Where is this god? Said Gangler. What is his power, and what hath he done to display his glory? He liveth, replied Har, from all ages. He governeth all realms, and swayeth all things great and small. He hath formed, added Jafnahar, heaven and earth, and the air, and all things thereunto belonging. And what is more, continued Thridi, he hath made man, and given him a soul which shall live and never perish, though the body shall have mouldered away or have been burnt to ashes. And all that are righteous shall dwell with him in the place called Gimli or Vingolf, but the wicked shall go to hell, and thence to Niflhel, which is below in the 9th world. And where did this god remain before he made heaven and earth? Demanded Gangler. He was then, replied Har, with the Hermsthursar. But with what did he begin? Or what was the beginning of things? Demanded Gangler. Here, replied Har, what is said in the Volspa. 'Twas time's first dawn, when not yet was, nor sand nor sea, nor cooling wave. Earth was not there, nor heaven above, naught save a void, and yawning gulf, but verdure none. Many ages before the earth was made, added Jafnahar, Niflheim was formed, in the middle of which lies the spring called Hrivgelmir, from which flow 12 rivers, Gjol being the nearest to the gate of the abode of death. But first of all, continued Thridi, there was in the southern region the world called Muspel, and it is a world too luminous and glowing to be entered by those who are not indigenous there. He who sitteth on its borders to guard it is named Surtur, and in his hand he beareth a flaming falchion, and at the end of the world shall issue forth to combat, and shall vanquish all the gods, and consume the universe with fire. Tell me, said Gangler, what was the state of things ere the races mingled and nations came into being? When the rivers that are called Elivigar had flowed far from their sources, replied Har, the venom which they rolled along hardened, as does dross that runs from the furnace, and became ice. When the rivers flowed no longer, and the ice stood still, the vapor arising from the venom gathered over it, and froze to rime, and in this manner were formed in Ginnungagap many layers of congealed vapor, piled one on the other. That part of Ginnungagap, added Jafnahar, that lies towards the north, was thus filled with heavy masses of gelid vapor and ice, whilst everywhere within were whirlwinds and fleeting mists. But the southern part of Ginnungagap was lighted by the sparks and flakes that flew into it from Muspelheim. Thus, continued Thridi, whilst freezing cold and gathering gloom proceeded from Niflheim, that part of Ginnungagap, which, looking towards Muspelheim, was filled with glowing radiancy. The intervening space remained calm and light as wind-still air, and when the heated blast met the gelid vapor, it melted into drops, and by the might of him who sent the heat, these drops quickened into life, and took a human semblance. The being thus formed was named Ymir, but the frost giants called him Orgelmir. From him descended the race of frost giants, Hermthursar, as it is said in the Volspa. From Vidolf come all witches, from Vilmith all wizards, from Svalfafidi all prison seekers, and all giants from Ymir. And the giant Vafthrudnir, when Gangrad asked whence came Orgelmir, the first of the sons of giants, answered, the Elivigar cast out drops of venom that quickened into a giant. From him spring all our race, and hence are we so strong and mighty. How did the race of Ymir spread itself? Asked Gangler. Who dost thou believe that this giant was a god? We are far from believing him to have been a god, replied Har, for he was wicked, as are all of his race whom we call frost giants. And it is said that when Ymir slept, he fell into a sweat, and from the pit of his left arm was born a man and a woman, and one of his feet engendered with the other a son, from whom descend the frost giants, and we therefore call Ymir the old frost giant. Where dwelt Ymir, and on what did he live? Asked Gangler. Immediately after the gelid vapors had been resolved into drops, replied Kar, there was formed out of them the cow named Audhumla. 4 streams of milk ran from her teats, and thus fed she Ymir. But on what did the cow feed? Questioned Gangler. The cow, answered Har, supported herself by licking the stones that were covered with frost, salt and hoarfrost. The first day that she licked these stones, there sprang from them, towards evening, the hairs of a man. The second day a head, and on the third day an entire man, who was endowed with beauty, agility, and power. He was called Bur, and was the father of Bor, who took for his wife Besla, the daughter of the giant Bullthorn. And they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve. And it is our belief that this Odin, with his brothers, ruleth both heaven and earth, and that Odin is his true name, and that he is the most mighty of all the gods. Was there, asked Gangler, any equality or any degree of good understanding between these 2 races? Far from it, replied Har, for the sons of Bor slew the giant Ymir, and when he fell, there ran so much blood from his wounds that the whole race of frost giants was drowned in it, except a single giant who saved himself with his household. He is called by the giants Bergelmir. He escaped by going on board his bark, and with him went his wife, and from them are descended the frost giants. And what became of the sons of Bor, whom ye look upon as gods? Asked Gangler. To relate this, replied Har, is no trivial matter. They dragged the body of Ymir into the middle of Ginnungagap, and formed the earth from Ymir's body. They made the seas and the waters from his flesh, the land. They made the seas and the waters, from his flesh the land, from his bones the mountains, and his teeth and jaws together with some bits of broken bones served to make the stones and pebbles. With the blood that ran from his wounds, added Jafnahar, they made the vast ocean, in the midst of which they fixed the earth, and the ocean encircling it as a ring. And hardy will he be who attempts to pass those waters. From his skull, continued Thridi, they formed the heavens, which they placed over the earth, and set a dwarf at the corner of each of the 4 quarters. These dwarves are called East, West, North, and South. They afterwards took the wandering sparks and red-hot flakes that had been cast out of Muspelheim, and placed them in the heavens, both above and below, to give light unto the world, and assigned to every other errant coruscation and prescribed locality and motion. Hence it is recorded in ancient lore that from this time were marked out the days and nights and seasons. Such are the events that took place ere the earth obtained the form it now beareth. Truly great were the deeds ye tell me of, explained Gangler, and wondrous in all its parts is the work thereby accomplished. But how is the earth fashioned? It is round without, replied Har, and encircled by the deep ocean, which the outward shores of which were assigned for a dwelling to the race of giants. But within round about the earth, they, the sons of Bor, raised a bulwark against turbulent giants, employing for this structure Ymir's eyebrows. To this bulwark they gave the name of Midgard. They afterwards tossed Ymir's brains into the air, and they became the clouds, for thus we find it recorded. Of Ymir's flesh was formed the earth, and of his sweat, blood, the seas, of his bones, the mountains, of his hair, the trees, of his skull, the heavens. But with his eyebrows the blithe gods built Midgard for the sons of men, whilst from his brains they lowering the lowering clouds were fashioned. To make heaven and earth, to fix the sun and moon in the firmament, and to mark out the days and seasons were indeed important labors, said Gangler, but whence came the men who at present dwell in the world? One day, replied Har, as the sons of Bor were walking along the sea beach, they found 2 stems of wood, out of which they shaped a man and a woman. The first, Odin, infused into them life and spirit. The second, Vili, endowed them with reason and the power of motion. The third, Ve, gave them speech and features, hearing and vision. The man they called Ask, and the woman Embla. From these 2 descended the whole human race, whose assigned dwelling was within Midgard. Then the sons of Bor built in the middle of the universe the city called Asgard, where dwell the gods and their kindred, and from that abode work out so many wondrous things, both on the earth and in the heavens above it. There is in that city a place called Hlidskivjalf, and when Odin is seated there on his lofty throne, he sees over the whole world, discerns all the actions of men, and comprehends whatever he contemplates. His wife Frigga is the daughter of Fjorgyn, and they and their offspring form of the race that we call Aesir, a race that dwells in Asgard the Old and the regions around it, and that we know to be entirely divine. Wherefore Odin may justly be called the All-Father, for he is verily the father of all, of the gods as well as of men, and to his power all things owe their existence. Earth is his daughter, and his wife, and with her he had his firstborn son, Asathor, who is endowed with strength and valor, and therefore quelleth he everything that hath life. So, both of these stories are about new beginnings. One is about the beginning of everything, and the other is the new beginning of why humans have to search for love. Oftentimes, however, something has to end before a beginning, and that is okay. This is exemplified in both stories, when from Aristophanes, where humanity is forced to give up permanent companionship so that they are not a threat to the gods, and in the Eddas, where Ymir's body becomes all of the things that make up Earth and the world. This is applicable to nature as well. The beginning of new life in spring comes with the end of winter, which can be a celebration, but it also means that you have the potential to lose all of the things that are enjoyable in winter. So you can miss them, but also celebrate all of the new things are to come, knowing that life is full of new beginnings. So we'll move into our video next. We leave this offering for our gods to symbolize our connection and devotion. We gift this rock to symbolize the stability of the gods in our world. We gift this water to accept the flow of our lives. We welcome life and bless our offerings with oil to share our riches. We embrace our connection to each other and the world and celebrate our revival. We will now move into our closing words and then our coffee hour. As we move out into the world, let us remember our community of faith. Cherish love and open your heart as you walk through life. Hold dear the light of the gods and our connection with the natural world. Go forth in celebration and carry the light of connection within your heart. We will now move into our coffee hour, and I will turn off the recording.